Here's the thought. The word spirituality is linked to a wide range of practices, ideologies and concepts. Usually, people admit that spirituality can be divided between religious spirituality and another kind of spirituality practiced freely without a proper institution or body of knowledge. From New Age to Wicca to Aleister Crowley and all his rites that influenced magical thinking in the West, to Allan Kardec, who also turned mediumship and spiritism popular, also the mainstream religions and any other forms of mysticism and spiritual expression. All this, considering all of these modes of spirituality, here's what I think. In my opinion, it is more useful to group together the many practices of spirituality when we simply realize that there is a spirituality of having and a spirituality of being. This might sound trivial to some, and it is quite obvious, but it is never too much to have a reminder. So, in other words, the spirituality of having is relative to everything material, social, status, identity and power. And the spirituality of being is relative to well-being. It's fundamental and basic. Here, being is not relative to power. One might think that power is an objective, a checkpoint for this mode of spirituality, but that's not what I mean. It's being, as in a living being, a thinking and feeling creature, which has an entire interior landscape. For example, movements linked to New Age and communities that advocate for some kind of power of manifestation, even the prayers practiced in religions, everything that involves a request to God, gods, supernatural entities, I consider all this to belong to the spirituality of having, a spirituality more linked to an indulgence, more linked to identity, materialism and power. On the other hand, examples of practices related to the spirituality of being, I consider this to be the canon, the core of the Eastern religions, Advaita Vedanta, Taoism, and even modern psychology with its methods of psychoanalysis belong to this facet of spirituality of well-being, the spirituality of inner peace. Nothing more than the fundamental well-being of what one is. That is what it's aiming at, without the apparent need for adding titles, recognition of status, social or subjective, without the addition of material goods or powers, be they social, personal or supernatural. But even in these schools of thought, like Taoism, I like to separate some of its aspects, because in magical religious Taoism, personal power is very much sought after. A practitioner of magical religious Taoism craves immortality. I notice that in Taoism the concept of immortality can vary a lot, as it can either refer to the longevity of the physical body or the immaterial body. And my observation in this case is for those who want the immortality of the physical body, that is, a spirituality of having. This is all to say that even with practices generally considered to be profound in concepts that reflect the state of being, as for example is foretold in concepts like moksha, which is liberation, or nirvana, which means to extinguish the flame, kaivalya, absolute unity, brahmanubhava, amazing experience. All these religions and philosophies also have one part or another linked to the spirituality of having. It is not just because a person identifies with a particular school of thought and practice as a whole that one becomes exclusively a practitioner of the spirituality of being. It also happens the other way around. For example, in the Spiritism of Allan Kardec or the writings of Helena Blavatsky and Charles Leadbeater, they talk a lot about astral projections and out-of-body experiences. Astral projection can be a practice that provides a wide range of experiences, ranging from the spirituality of having to the spirituality of being. The same happens with the practice and consumption of entheogens, whether modern psychonauts or traditional healers and shamans. So, why is it important to define these two aspects of spirituality? I don't want with this to seem like I take a critical position in relation to the hippie attitude or New Age movements, or even ardent supporters of ancient religious scriptures. I just want to maybe make it easier for each person in his own soul search to really know what one wants to find. That the importance we place on having power or having material things may not be more important than well-being that is sustainable. Of course, we can try to unravel the mysteries of the universe and solve the hard question of what consciousness is. But isn't that all, in truth, the constant demand for us to feel good about ourselves? The search for the inner peace, is it not in itself the ultimate reason for unraveling the mystery? Of course, the practices are all interconnected, but I think it's helpful to know what we are looking for, so one can gain a perspective by better acknowledging the full spectrum of spirituality as a whole. Naturally, wanting to manifest money, fame, status or power makes us feel good, but this will never be sustainable, and most of the time it's just a fantasy that never really comes true, thus wasting time and resources. Of course, memorizing a religious text and showing it to your peers makes you feel good, but we are never truly immune to disappointments. Only a robust position that knows how to clearly distinguish what is spirituality of having from the spirituality of being makes us feel better able to navigate the possibilities of life itself. Only a robust position gives us the ability to simultaneously experience having and being at the same time without inner conflict. To experience the spirituality of having with dexterity, and to experience the spirituality of being with presence. Be well.